thanks for watching Numbskull News. And today we're going to talk about this Andrew Marchand. How the hell do you say it? I don't know how you say his name, but a guy from the Washington Post, damn it, just dropped an article on Monday talking about how the Pac-12 and ESPN, well, they're not getting along too well. Apparently, and this has always been the case, the Pac-12 wants way more money than ESPN is willing to dish out for Pac-12 content. What do they want? They still want some late night window games, want a little something for the app, and that's it. They're not going to overpay. They're the only linear partner out there for the Pac-12. I mean, Fox has been out, CBS has been out, NBC, I mean, they're still trying to get something done with Notre Dame. So that's it. That it's ESPN or it's all Apple, because Amazon only wants a game of the week on Friday. That's all they want. And let's face it, really the Pac-12 only talked to Apple just to kind of threaten ESPN, try to get them to raise their offer, try to get some kind of competition going. That's all that was about. They know damn well they can't put all Pac-12 crap on Apple TV and expect people to sign their grant of rights. It's not going to happen. Not to mention, a grant of rights was going to be damn near impossible anyway. The only way you might be able to get something done is if you have ESPN gets half of everything, and then the other half goes to a streamer. That's the only way that's going to work. And I think the Pac-12 knows that. Unfortunately, ESPN doesn't want 50% of your crap. And Amazon definitely does it. And I'm here to tell you right now, Apple TV doesn't want half. They want 100%. Mr. Marchand said the same damn thing. And it's something I've been saying for a while. You just got to look at how they treated the MLS. Right? They let a few games go onto a linear network. But that's because they have the whole league. And it's a lot of teams, a lot of games, a lot more than what the Pac-12 has. Just a lot more inventory. So actually it kind of makes sense for them to, have a couple games on linear TV, entice people to come to Apple TV and watch the rest of your MLS crap. But when you're talking 5 games a week, when all these teams are playing each other, what does that do for Apple? They want all 5 games. That's essentially what it's going to be. And they're going to kick back production cost on you. And Apple TV is going to want it their way, or it will be the highway. All right, they told the NFL to kick rocks because the NFL, of course, they're a huge brand. They want things their way. And they know that there's a ton of partners out there they can get money for. And eventually they did get that from YouTube TV. But, Apple doesn't give a shit because they're a bigger company and they make more money than the NFL. And it's hard to fathom because the NFL is a multi-billion-dollar company. But Apple, you're talking hundreds of billions. I mean, it's not really that close. So Apple TV knows what they have. They know the money they have. They know the power they have. And they have the power to say no. They don't care if they miss out. They don't care about missing out. If they really cared about that, then they would have given in to the NFL a little bit like everybody else does. But Apple is Apple. They don't have to give in to jack shit. They're going to do it their way. So if you think that that's like your last hope, it ain't hope. But let's just say theoretically you got something done with Apple. Let's say they gave you $30 million a year. Oh, well, there you go. Everyone can stay together. No, because Arizona State, Oregon, and Washington are not going to sign a grant of rights with everything going on Apple. It's not happening. Remember, this is something that I've said before. I'll say it again. This is a baseline. All right, your TV deal is your baseline income. All right, it's your minimum wage is essentially what it is. It's kind of like a waiter or waitress, right? They're going to make their normal $2, $3, $4 an hour. Then they get tips on top of that. Now, of course, TV deal, it's a lot more money we're talking about. But let's just use the Big 12, right? $31 million. You round it up to 32 if you want. but let's just be nice. I'm going to round it down to 31 million a year per team, and that is their base. But then you tack on the NCAA tournament payout, you tack on the CFP payout, you take on corporate, you tack on corporate sponsorships. You add all that together, and it's been estimated that they're going to make about 50 million a year. All right, you look at the Big Ten. What is it, 60, 65 million a year per team? That's their base. But it's been estimated they should be able to pull in about $100 million per team. This is why I always say Big Ten makes $100 million per school, because after everything, that's about what they're going to have. The SEC will come in just under that, 90 whatever million after everything. And that's what you get with exposure with linear partners. Now, if you're going all Apple TV, well, you can slash what you're going to get from corporate sponsorships. That money's way down. CFP, good luck, because you're not being seen. And we know the people who vote on who gets into the playoff, I mean, they're not exactly trying. I think that's been pretty well evident. NCAA tournament, I mean, what's the payout for the Pac-12? I mean, they don't get a lot of teams in. So there's not a lot of winning to be done in the tournament anyway. You got one team you can count on, Arizona. And USC and UCLA, who's usually pretty good and put teams in the tournament, they're leaving. They're going to, one more year, that's gone. So your payout is going to be shit. So even if you get 30 million from Apple, and not to mention they're going to kick back production costs to you. So what does that 30 million really turn into? Maybe, 25 a year, 26 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood per team. You're going to have a hard time getting beyond that. Like I said, with the Big 12, I mean, you're talking about an extra $20 million you're getting from everything else. The SEC and the Big 10, that's probably an extra 30 million they're getting with everything else, corporate sponsorships, the whole nine. So that's the problem with the Pac-12, because what their baseline is going to be pretty much it if you're talking about Apple TV. You have to have ESPN. Now, there's some people, like the Monty Show, that have said that they haven't talked, even discussed anything. No one's picked up a phone in over a month, maybe even up to 6 weeks. Without ESPN, there is no Pac-12 deal. Let me just stress that to you. There's no deal, because you're not going to have a grant of rights, all Apple TV. And there's no option on the table to go all Amazon. Amazon doesn't want it. They want one game. That's it. So this is a real freaking dilemma. $22 to $25 million is about all you're going to be able to squeeze out of ESPN and Amazon. That's if you can get ESPN on the phone. And ESPN is more than willing to play hardball. This is why. Because if Arizona leaves, and let's say one more team like Colorado, the Big 12 already have BYU. So if you think about it, you could probably squeeze your 12 weeks of late night window games out of those three teams. I mean, they would probably like one or two more Pac-12 teams in the Big 12, just so, you're not putting so much on those three teams. But that's the only reason. That's it. Have a little bit extra inventory on their app, a game or two, and that's it. So let's just do the math here, quick math here. I'm not saying all four corners are going to jump. I'm just saying, let's say the four corners did come to the Big 12. ESPN gets off pretty light that way. Because from what I've heard, they'd be willing to throw in around $100 million a year to the Pac-12 for a couple of games. Now, with the pro rata deal with the Big 12, that's $20 million per school, so that's $80 million for four schools to come into the Big 12, well, that's all the late night window stuff you would need. That's all the games you would need extra for the ESPN app, ESPN Plus. I mean, they saved $20 million. This is a company that's about to cut 700 jobs from ESPN. Disney is slashing all over the place, all right, trying to get their budget in line. They fired their CEO, brought back their old CEO so they can make their spreadsheets look good, so they can balance their budget. You really think they're going to up the money to the Pac-12 just so you can stay together? You think ESPN gives two shits if the Pac-12 is a thing? They don't care. They want their money. And they want their content. They want their cake and eat it too. That's what the big mouse is all about. Well, they can get the content they need and save money by using the pro rata and having those teams come to the Big 12. That's what they would prefer. And I guarantee you ESPN is going to try to make that happen. Saves them money. And it's a very easy thing for them to do. All they have to do is kick back and say, look, we're not going to really offer you anything. All right. They can just take the offer that they have on the table right now and just take it off the table. They've done it before. Once upon a time, back in August, they offered the Pac-12 $30 million per school, $300 million a year. And the Pac-12 didn't take it. That opened the door for Brett Yormark to get in there and get a deal done with ESPN and Fox for the Big 12. He took advantage of that. Y'all were first at the table. Could have had it. Didn't do it. Thought you were worth more. Now you're worth less. So I suspect after the tournament, I do believe Arizona is going to jump. You know, it's been reported, and I thought that they would want to come with another team, but I think they're getting tired enough. They're kind of over it. And you can just look at, you know, the comments, really not just of the Arizona president, but of Arizona State and also Utah. They were all sent out with the same talking points, right? Because they don't want Mr. Kliavkoff. They don't want him to talk at all. All right? Because he's going to sound like a dumbass. He's going to put his foot in his mouth again. He's going to overpromise some shit. And they're tired of hearing that. So they wanted these presidents to come out and put in their 2 cents. I mean, they're not coming out doing interviews just because. And it just so happens to all be in the same week. No. They're putting that out there, putting that propaganda out there. But the Arizona president went a few steps beyond what everybody else did. You can pretty much read between the lines that they're kind of done. They're kind of done. They're willing to, you know, and look, they all have the numbers of what's available, but they're going to give it till after the tournament. Once the tournament's done, they're going to be like, okay, you know, time's up. What do you have? So I think shortly after the tournament, Arizona is going to jump. Possibly, maybe, Colorado joins them. And at that time, I think officially the Big 12 will offer Gonzaga. Gonzaga will come in. Now, keep in mind, we got over a year left, or the Pac-12 has over a year left on their deal. All right, so Oregon and Washington, they're not in a hurry at all. All right, it's been said that possibly the Big Ten will have their new commissioner April, May, around there. And I think they want to hold off on making any plans until, and they're not going to sign jack shit, grant of rights or anything. Doesn't matter what the deal is. Oregon and Washington ain't signing nothing until that new Big Ten commissioner gets in there and they can talk to them or try, you know, make their case. You know, hey, $45 million a year. So, you know, that's it. You don't have to give us a full share. You know, we'll be happy with that all the way to 2030 if you want. Just let us in. That's going to be their pitch. And who knows, it might work. It might work, it might not. And they will take that right up to the final hour to try to get into the Big Ten. Stanford and Cal are more happy to wait. As a matter of fact, they want to talk to that new commissioner too. Hey, look at these academics. Come on. We, we'd be the best academic schools that you got. So they got cases to be made, and they want to make them to that new commissioner. And what it sounds like, Utah and Arizona State, I think they're kind of happy to wait to the final hour too to see what happens with them, whether they get in or not, or coalesce those 6 teams with Oregon State and Washington State and try to figure something out, and then replace the other 2 guys. But if Oregon and Washington do, pull it off and they get into the Big Ten, that's when you can see Utah and Arizona State, okay, we're gone. We'll go to the Big 12. I think that'll happen. And I think it'll happen if it's Stanford and Cal. It'll happen if all 4 of those teams get to go to the Big Ten. However, one thing that could happen, Oregon and Washington, there's a tiny slight chance that they end up in the Big 12 if the Big Ten just want nothing to do with them. And at that point, if the only option they have is Apple TV, they may say, screw that, we'll go to the Big 12. Because I do not see, especially Oregon, but I don't think Washington either. I can't see them even being able to control the Pac-12 forever or whatnot and have all the unequal revenue share out the ass. I don't think that either one of those teams ever want to be solely on a streaming platform. I really don't think Stanford or Cal gives a shit. I don't think they care. They're so much into the academics, they don't care about the sports side of it. And that's with, Stanford does put in money into their athletics. A lot of money. But I'm willing to bet that's more for a write-off than it is actually trying to compete. That's the way it looks to me. But it's been said that Stanford and Cal rather go independent than join the Big 12. Maybe they do that. Or maybe they just give up sports altogether. I don't know. But I think at the final hour, we're talking a year from now, if the Big Ten is just like, dude, no. The Big Ten does not want you at any dollar. If that's the case, then maybe a year from now, Oregon and Washington then call Brett Yormark and say, okay, where do we sign? At that point, but we're still a long way from that. Any movement on Oregon and Washington to the Big 12 before that would be shocking to me. Now, the magic number is 4. If ESPN can manage to get 4 teams from the Pac-12 into the Big 12, then they will never, ever put a dollar into the Pac-12. And look, you can call it conspiracy theory if you want. It just makes logical sense for a company that's hemorrhaging money to try to put a Band-Aid over that and stop the flow of blood coming out. So overall, that's my take on what's going on and with the Andrew Marchand guy. It was a good article if you want to go and read it. But, I didn't feel like going through it line by line. There's really no reason for it. It's a lot of regurgitation of the same stuff we already know. But the ESPN stuff was interesting, so I wanted to give my take on it. Anyway, that's all I got on this crap, and I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.